everyone. I hope you're having a good week. I have a lot of tips for you on how to go about writing your literary research paper. This video should hopefully make the process of getting all this information a little easier. If you'd rather read these instructions, a transcript of everything said here can be found next to the video link on D2L. First, I want to say that I'll be including information from a number of useful online sources, and each time I do, I'll include the source at the bottom of the screen. I'll also put up the links on D2L if you'd like to visit them for more information. One of these sources, Dr. Jeff Baker, a professor of literature at California State University, has written an extensive handout about writing a literary research paper. He reminds us that you should see this as a conversation. You are looking to see what others are saying, but then you must find something to add to that conversation. Simply repeating what everyone else has said does not make you a participant in the conversation. Baker breaks the process down into a number of steps. Step 1. Select a field of inquiry and develop a working hypothesis. Baker says, before you look at what others have said about it, you'll have your own ideas, your own working hypothesis. For you, this could mean reading the text closely and deciding what theme seems present and what elements of writing have helped create that theme. This would be using formalism, or, if you are having a hard time finding a theme, you could take on another theory to help consider the text in a new light. For example, if I read Barry Lopez's The Raven, but couldn't decide on a theme or thesis that analyzed the essay in some way, I might reread it with a historical criticism lens. This means I would think about the period in which Lopez was writing the essay. I would find and read other documents from that time period that might give me insight into how Lopez was feeling at the time. I could read his diary or letters, find newspapers, and explore other historical documents that help show what was going on at the time. As I do this, maybe I would find an event that seemed to be depicted in his illustration of the two different birds. This would be my hypothesis, my working thesis, or, let's say I decided to use feminist and gender criticism. As I read through the essay again, I look for signs of power struggles between men and women. Maybe as I read, I decide that Lopez has showed women through the depiction of the crows. I would use that as my hypothesis, and go forward with my research to find more evidence. You see how I'm using the theory as a starting point? I'm looking at the text in a new way and deciding if that new lens will help me identify any themes or connections. Your ideas may change as you continue, so this is when we call it a hypothesis or a working thesis. Be ready to change your mind. Step 2, in Dr. Baker's process, is to gather your sources. When looking for sources, Baker says to consider the following questions. What else has been written about this idea? If no one has written on this particular theme, are there critical essays or books that do discuss this theme as it appears in texts by other authors, or discuss this theme in general? Do scholars from other fields, history, anthropology, economics, political science, have anything to contribute to this debate? Baker says you can answer these questions by running searches in our library's database. This is a collection of journals, magazines, and newspapers that our library subscribes to. For more information about searching the database, interlibrary loan, and the internet, go back to page 130 to 135 in our textbook. It gives some great advice. As you find sources, make sure to evaluate them for credibility and relevance. This means before you use a text, consider the author's background, credentials, and publication history to decide whether or not they are trustworthy. You should also take into account the reason for writing the piece and who they are writing to. For example, the website The Onion publishes satirical newspaper articles. If I didn't know these were not true and only written to be humorous, I might look foolish if I try to use information from one of these articles in my analysis. This is why before I use information from any website, I need to evaluate the author, the organization that supports the site, the purpose of the site, and the information that is provided. More specific details on evaluating your sources can be found on pages 135 to 136. The relevance and reliability of your sources will be considered in your final grade. As you find sources, remember to record the citation information and make your works cited entries as you move through the research process. Our book describes the citation creation process pretty well, but I'll put a tutorial on D2L in case you'd like to take a look. Another way to find scholarly and reliable sources on the internet is to use Google Scholar. Also, if you find the option for advanced Google search, you can limit which domain names show up in your search. For example, if I wanted only organization sites, I could go down to domain name and type .org. This would give me only websites that end in .org. Also, if you're trying to find scholarly sources, find and select that box when you are in the database. It is often marked peer-reviewed. Here are some more database search tips that our book may not cover. Using Boolean search techniques can really speed things up. Put in between two words when you want your source to include both of those words. For example, typing country and music will give me sources that only include both of these words, but or between two words when the source could have one or the other. For example, by typing teenagers or youth, I will get results that have one of these words. This is good when there are multiple words for one topic. This way I don't have to run two different searches. Next, but not between two words when you want to exclude a certain word from your results. For example, I could type, President not Clinton. This helps save time by eliminating anything I may not want to know about. Maybe I'm looking for information on any president except Bill Clinton, so I write not Clinton. Also, you can put an asterisk after a word to search all forms of that word. For example, I could type NURS, and then an asterisk. This helps save time because now instead of having to individually search nurse, nurses, nursed, and nursing, all forms of the word nurse will show up in one search. Put parentheses around a phrase to use multiple techniques at once. For example, I could type president, and, parenthesis, Clinton, or, Bush, and then end the parentheses. Now I'll get only sources that have both president and Clinton or president and Bush. Don't put stop words. These overly common words slow down the search process. Some stop words are, that, the, this, how, why, if. One excellent way to find great sources is to ask a librarian. That's their job. And it will save you so much time and energy. So go talk to one, and see what great sources they suggest. Once you've found your sources, it's time to do your research. Baker gives some good advice about reading though your sources. Read through the sources you've collected. Pay attention to interesting arguments, especially as they relate to your project or where they seem to offer competing ideas. Take notes in a way that feels comfortable and thorough to you. Use this as a chance to begin your conversation with the authors you're reading. The notes you take could be brief summaries of what the writers are saying, questions you have, arguments you want to make, etc. Just make sure you make it clear if you are paraphrasing, direct quoting, or writing your own ideas. This will keep you from plagiarizing later on. Taking detailed and careful notes also helps you keep track of your ideas and better understand and remember what you've read. Baker says to look for patterns in the texts and to find places where others disagree too. He also explains, just like our textbook, that it's okay to end up with research you won't use.
You should know, too, that sifting through other scholars' work is scholarship all the same, even if you find nothing that you feel is related to your thesis. Part of the work of research is confronting dead ends, just like in the laboratory. If an experiment doesn't work, you've eliminated a possibility, and that's a job well done.
That's good advice. Begin your research with the idea that you are exploring the topic. See what people are saying, and how that relates to your ideas. Return to page 21 in our textbook for more help with choosing a topic. It continues to discuss tips on developing your argument and finding your thesis. Take a look if you feel stuck. You can also feel free to talk to me about your ideas and what you are thinking. Call, email, or Skype me if you're having trouble. I have more tips on how to write your paper once you've finished your research, but let's save that for later this week. Good luck choosing a topic. Goodbye for now.